Bola Vinaka, and welcome once again, our dear viewers, to episode 2 of Walking in the Footsteps of Jesus. In the last episode, we had John, Bola John.
Bola, good to be here.
We've had the opportunity of hearing John's story, travel from here to Sydney, Sydney to Dubai to Tel Aviv, to Israel.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yes.
Yes. So in this episode, we will be hearing about what was John's experience in arriving into Israel.
Yeah.
John, over to you.
Thank you.
Tell us about it.
Thank you. It's good to be back. Welcome to our viewers. And just a disclaimer, Lou, just to mention and say out there, I'm not a theology, expert on the Bible or a archaeologist in going to Israel and visiting all these sites. But I was, given the opportunity with, as mentioned in episode 1, to travel with the Hope Channel team and just experience the places that, we find in the Bible as stories and where Jesus actually walked. So I'm just here sharing my experience of what happened and how it has changed my life.
Right.
And I'm hoping that it will also change your life as well. And, from some of the little experiences that I have gone through. So just a disclaimer at the beginning, Lou, before we keep moving on. But Tel Aviv was the city where we landed into, or the airport, Tel Aviv. And I have to just be honest here. I was shocked when I arrived and saw the city of Tel Aviv. Because my impression of going to Israel for the towns and cities that I would be entering would be like Bible times.
Okay, I understand what.
The architecture of the buildings would have that stone, brick walls. Exactly. And as we drove or came into Tel Aviv, and I was going through the, 5-lane highways from the airport to the city, and I was saying, no, this is not
not as I imagined,
not as ancient as I thought it would be. It's very modern. Very modern looking. The architecture is just as if you were in the city of Sydney or Los Angeles or even, the beautiful thing about it, it's Tel Aviv is right on the coastline of the Mediterranean Sea.
That's a beautiful view.
It's really nice. And you have beaches along that coast and you have these skyscrapers just on the side there. So we'll probably show the reel at this time so they can see me walking through just a very short video on my walk through Tel Aviv.
Interesting.
Yeah, you see the number of people that were walking through and the busyness, people on the beach.
That was my next question. Yeah. Tell us about the people there.
So it's it's like a hustle and bustle city. Very touristy, where people would fly in because it's one of the, I think it is the biggest airport that they have in Israel. And so flying into there, you'll have a lot of tourists coming in, and from there, they'll stay in hotels, and then they'll go to the different sites where they are visiting, just like out tour experience. And so another thing which I noticed, Lou, about the people is the demographics in age. So a lot of young people, and a lot of like the younger generation. And I could say also party goers,
live around that area.
The nightlife is very alive, much alive. So they'll be there whether they're going to the nightclubs or going to the beaches along the Mediterranean. In some of the photos, which I think the team can put up now, is also you see people just enjoying themselves on the beach. Restaurants after restaurants, as you walk along that coast, you see a lot of young people enjoying themselves, and especially during the summer. And that was around that time when I visited. It was during the summertime. Yeah.
Right.
And so I was surprised, to see that postmodern culture, and to experience that, hey, even Israel is not caught in a time warp, centuries ago. Israel is keeping up with the times, and it's a very prominent country in the world today. We watch it on the news, and sometimes we get the wrong impression too on how media plays, or we can say downplays sometimes different countries. And in my experience of traveling around, don't trust everything that sometimes mainstream media may only show a certain angle of the place or a story. And but it's only when you visit it and you see, oh wow, it's so different from what I see on on
that's
TV.
amazing how it's been transformed from that, from the biblical type of setting.
That's right.
Into what you've just explained, John.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
Yeah.
And there's a photo here of me standing at the balcony of my hotel room, and looking out in the background, if you can see, is the Mediterranean Sea.
Right.
And so the first couple of days that I was there, something that was running through my mind was the fact that this is the same coastline, the same sea, the same sort of waves that are hitting the shores of Tel Aviv that Jesus would have experienced, the apostles would have experienced, Peter going out, probably to fish, and the disciples, also the voyages for Paul. His 3 mission trips was leaving these shores out into the Mediterranean Sea. I actually researched and, in the Bible where he visited, and it was Athens, Corinth, Macedonia, Ephesus, Patara, and even Rome when he, went to the Roman Empire there, the city of Rome, where also he was put in prison.
Sure.
And the island of, different islands there where they got shipwrecked. And so he's experienced a lot from that sea, from that Mediterranean Sea. And I just made me think, wow, the mission trips of Paul, nothing held him back.
Yes.
From taking God's word, God's gospel to the people around during his times. And so he would have left, I've written down here, the ports of Caesarea and Tyre, which was further up north, just not very far, but further up north from Tel Aviv is. And down south, which we'll cover in the next episode, is we find Joppa.
Oh, okay.
And Joppa is where Jonah.
Right.
So we won't spoil it. We'll talk about that in episode 3. And but just the mission trips of our apostles, in the New Testament, and how they were filled with the Holy Spirit.
Right.
In whatever culture and setting
they were in. Right.
It would have been modern for them in that context.
Yeah.
Yet they pursued, they went out, and shared the gospel.
Reflecting on that, we now have cars, in our own setting. Yes. We jump into cars and we go to places where we want to take for Paul, it was a boat ride.
That's right.
Taking into account the weather, he had to travel in. Yes. that is quite a challenge.
It is quite a challenge.
To travel to all those places you mentioned. Yeah.
And like I said, in the first episode, I was sort of in the luxury of flying an A380, A380, the bigger, Airbus from Sydney to Dubai, and then another airline into Tel Aviv. Yeah. And it took about 22 hours in total of flight time. It may seem long, for us, but imagine Paul's journey. There was no planes at that time. He was traveling by boat, which is not that did not have an engine. It was a sailboat that, had to depend on the wind.
But that did not deter him from,
Did not deter him. Yeah. He continued on his journey. Mission. And so it made me think of the context of us today. Right. Even though Israel and Tel Aviv itself, the main city, is a very postmodern city. A lot of us, probably you viewing today, are living in cities and towns, maybe in Suva, maybe in the west, in Nandi Lotoka. And you have that hustle and bustle lifestyle, that we think, we cannot really literally be like Paul to actually go out and do mission in the context that we're living today. I was even thinking of the generation, like the people that were enjoying themselves on the same shoreline that Paul was trying to
take the message
out from.
Right.
People were partying there. They were just, enjoying themselves and probably not even understanding or knowing about the times that we're living in. And so we have this culture that, we are probably sleeping. We do not know that, the signs of the times and what we are going through. We actually need to be aware and share that Jesus is coming soon. Right. And so that urgency we might not have, but it was interesting that Paul had it.
I love the fact that that you reflect when you're there. You've been reflecting on what had happened, in the Bible times, because sometimes we get so comfortable in the places that we live in, Just like you said, Tel Aviv has come out of this postmodern,
Very much.
And we get so comfortable that we forget the purpose, why we are here.
Amen.
And the mission that God has put in us.
That's true.
But that is something very important that I've learned, John, to always sit and try and reflect. Wherever you are in life, sit and reflect on, and then maybe you'll be able to come back to realization, okay, this is
why I'm
here. This is my purpose.
Why God placed me in this place. Yeah. And so I was thinking, many times we come up with excuses that maybe we're not worthy, or we are not, we don't have the resources we complain about the modes of transportation. We don't have taxi fare or bus fare to go to our neighbors or to the next suburb or town to share or to just be a friend to someone. And so that keeps us from witnessing or from sharing. But compared to Paul, he had he experienced snake bites. He was, whipped by Roman soldiers, imprisoned, went through shipwreck. So many of these things he could have said, I'm just going to give up. I'm just going to go back, live my simple tent making business life that I used to have. And, why am I taking such a risk, to share the gospel? And so for me, it was a time of reflection where I asked myself, the same question you said, what am I really doing in where I am today?
Correct.
What has God impressed upon me, or why has God placed me in where I am today? our viewers might be asking the same question. Why did I leave the village or maybe come to the city? Or why did I come to, it could be for work, it could be for education, but God has a higher purpose and a higher plan of why we are here. Yeah.
Thank you, John. So, man. But in that tour, were you, there were tour guides taking you along as well?
Yes. As I mentioned in the first episode, we had two tour guides that was taking us around, and one was Derek Morris, Pastor Derek Morris, and also Dr. Michael Hessel, who is a professor of archaeology in Southern Adventist University in the States, in America. And but while I was in Tel Aviv, this was, a couple of days before we met the tour guides. And so it was, as you could see in the video, just a time I could just walk around. I wasn't with anybody else. It was just myself, enjoying the sights and sounds of Tel Aviv. And like I said, a very postmodern community and city. And so it seems also interesting to note that the city is also very much involved in technology. And so you have some of the big companies like Google, like even Microsoft, and these big tech companies that have bases there, or offices in that area. And one of the reasons why they're based there is to hire and employ some of the brightest minds in Israel, especially the younger generation. And that's why that it's a city that has a lot of younger, in terms of demographic and age, it's full of younger people that are working and living in Tel Aviv. So very interesting. Yeah.
I would like to think of it this way, John. Maybe, and I believe this, that maybe because of the people like Paul, allowing God to use them, allowing God to use them to share the love that he has allowed Tel Aviv to come out the way it is today. I am not, that's what I believe, It's the blessings that he has bestowed upon those that have been faithful to him.
Be. Yes. Yeah. And Israel is a blessed country, even till today. A land, they say, flowing with milk and honey. It was the promised land for, for Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, as promised, that they will come to a place where the Lord will have abundance in, produce, and, and the text actually says flowing with milk and honey. And till this day, it has, one interesting fact about Israel is that it produces more than what the nation actually consumes. And so it is able to export its produce to other parts of the surrounding countries, which, when we see pictures and we visit there, it's covered with desert. There's not much, we think that it's not fertile, but it's a blessed area. And the produce that they have, I tell you, actually, I'll put up some photos right now of the market as I was walking through the market in Tel Aviv. And you just see the different types of produce, apples, oranges, bananas, different types of nuts, different types of even spices and herbs. There's just abundance in supply.
And for that to come out of a desert place.
Yeah. Exactly. So again, what you said is very true. The blessings from our, the people that we read in the Bible about Paul and other apostles that have, left the shores from there to take the gospel, and how the Lord has blessed the nation of Israel, being a blessed nation,
Right.
and they were also able to bless other nations.
as
And
well.
still today they're doing that. Yeah.
I can tell that God stands true to his promises.
Mm.
He had promised Abraham back then,
Very
you
true.
know, that I will bless your people and your land.
That's right.
And what do we see here,
That's
you
right.
know?
That's true.
Man.
That's true. Yeah. So, back to my reflection
Right.
on the city of Tel Aviv, and despite it being a postmodern city, we think that, nothing probably, this city cannot be converted, or this city maybe there's no hope for the people here. It's like that for all our cities around the world. And we sometimes think that God does not have people in this place. But who are we to judge?
Exactly.
If Paul, from his the mission and the passion that he had to take the gospel to all the parts, that he could visit from that shoreline, what excuses do we have from sharing, even if it's just to our very next door neighbor?
Yeah.
So I was encouraged by that thought and that reflection. And I hope that, you watching today could also be encouraged and probably think and reflect about your life and what you are doing. Are you being a blessing to your neighbors? Are you being a blessing to the people you work with, maybe at your workplace? And so if Paul had the passion and without excuses to travel by boat, out for his 3 mission trips, what excuse do we have if we are placed in an area where we could do the same in sharing his love, sharing the good things that God has done to us? Yeah. So
I think that is this is a more reflective kind of episode.
That's right.
I would say.
That's right.
Before we go into all the other places you'll visit.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it was for me, the surprise was the fact that it's so modern.
Right.
There's so many the architecture. It's different from what we think of, what we read in the Bible. Of course, they keep up to modern times, but I just had that different, perception of coming into Israel. And, but it also reminds me that even though how modern it may seem, the people there need to know about Jesus. Amen. They also need to know about his love. Amen. And they want to connect. They still have that emptiness that I could say, about relationships and wanting to connect with others and with God's love. So that's the challenge. Basically, the challenge I have for us viewing today, and also which I did challenge myself in what can I do to be a witness or to lend a helping hand to my neighbor. Though we might be in the context of a very modern hustle and bustle society, and doing our own thing, living our lives separately, but yet we need to connect. We need to love our next door neighbor. We need to, God has placed us in a place where we can show his love to others living around us. Yeah.
Well, I pray that we will have that same spirit that Paul had. Yeah. The courage to go out there and just share the love of Jesus, as John had said. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there any other closing?
Yeah, just want to read the last paragraph again of what I wrote down here for this trip, or this time I was in Tel Aviv. Just at the very end, I said, a postmodern world does not mean that people are better off than they were during Paul's time, reflecting the 2 times. They still want connection. They still have or are looking for that meaning of hope in life, their purpose. All right. And as Christians, we are called to share from Jerusalem, Samaria, and to the ends of the world, whether the cost may be. So that's my challenge. Wherever we are placed, whatever we may do, whether it's our next door neighbor, whether it's somebody at school or at work, you can make the difference in their lives by sharing Jesus to them.
Nakavaleu, John. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, viewers for joining us in this episode. And we do hope that you've been blessed by the messages that we've been sharing from here and the stories that John had shared with us. And as we walk in the footsteps of Jesus, we pray that you will hold on to that and keep walking in faith with Jesus. Till the next episode, stay blessed.